Yeah. So we'll do, for those on Zoom, we'll do in the FPMT prayer book, the prayers at the beginning of the teachings, praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. Anyway, let's sit quietly for a moment and just collect our attention, our awareness. So focus on your breath or another object to generate some concentration. Check the state of your mind. And then visualize, if you like, then visualize Shakyamuni Buddha and the field of refuge in the space in front of you. And then we'll recite this praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, which is traditionally recited at the beginning of a teaching. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With a supreme science, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to thusness I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, and all aspects. With supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual apparition, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of sickness, aging, and death. And then in the prayer book, we'll skip quite a few pages to page 98. Page 98, the mandala offering. I'm going to offer a short mandala with the request to turn the wheel of Dharma. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. O holy and perfect Pure Lama, from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release a rain of vast and profound Dharma, precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be trained. Yedam Guru Rana Mandala Kamiratayam. And then we can recite the refuge and bodhicitta prayer 3 times. I go for refuge until I am enlightened, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through explaining the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through explaining the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the actually 2 collections I create through explaining the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. And then check your motivation for attending this session this morning. Check that you have, well, generate the most positive possible motivation, if possible, a bodhicitta motivation or any positive motivation for attending the teaching this morning on how to live happily as a couple. So try to think that by attending this teaching, then may I quickly become enlightened in order to be of the greatest possible benefit to all sentient beings, in order to free them all from every suffering and bestow them with every happiness up to full enlightenment as well. So, let's see. Oh, I need screen sharing, Shanti. So yeah, we're in the middle of the sessions on how to live happily as a couple, which is a review of some teachings that Lama Zopa Rinpoche gave in Singapore in August and September. Great. So yesterday we were talking about the many benefits of compassion, the essential, and the necessity or the importance of, in a relationship with someone, practicing compassion, being compassionate, in order to be aware of the challenges that they're facing and be sensitive to noticing that, and then trying to support your partner when they're having a hard time, and helping them find ways to work through and overcome different challenges, problems that they face in the course of your relationship. So then, when Rinpoche spoke about the importance of compassion, he made some general points that we mainly covered yesterday, like how being compassionate makes both others and ourselves happy in the present. So at that moment we're compassionate, we're practicing loving kindness and compassion. In that moment, we are happy, sort of content, satisfied, feel like we're our mind is at peace, at ease. So I think I spoke about that quite a bit yesterday. And then think about how, for example, when a stranger is compassionate and kind to us, how it makes us so happy. When some stranger we meet, they see that we're having a difficulty and they're kind to us, how it's so helpful to us. Like, for myself, I can think of a good example. It's like one time after I graduated from college, then I decided I had a job for the summer as a camp counselor in Tennessee, but where I grew up is in Virginia in the United States. And so after college, I went to college in Ohio, but after I graduated from college, then I went back home for a couple of weeks to Virginia, where my parents live, and then but then I had to go to Tennessee to this camp. So I decided to ride my bike. I was very into bike riding, had a nice bike and like packs for the bikes and camping equipment. So I decided just to ride my bike from Virginia to Tennessee, which it took about 2 weeks, camping out along the way. But I kind of didn't have much time to prepare to leave. So I didn't, and my bike was kind of old. I hadn't maintained it well in a long time. So I didn't maintenance my bike like properly before I left. So, the first day kind of went okay, but by like the second or third day, then the tire went flat, and I didn't have like a spare, and then what do you say, on the the rim and the not the axle, the spokes were quite old, so the spokes started snapping because I had a very heavy load on the back wheel. So there's some of the spokes started snapping, but mainly was the second day, my second day out, like in the afternoon, the tire went flat. So I went to a gas station. I had a patch kit, so I patched up my inner tube, but then the patch didn't hold when I pumped up the bike. The patch would like blow out and it would just go flat again. So I was really frustrated, and like in the middle of the countryside, this area I didn't know about, and I didn't know where I was going to camp, and it was like getting dark, and I just kind of like I was in the behind the gas station, kind of a field, and I like threw my bike down. And then this man, this total stranger, just came over to me, and he's like, what's wrong? He was quite old, real like hillbilly guy. He had such a thick accent, in Virginia in the rural South, like real strong Southern accent. He had really thick accent. I could hardly understand what he was saying, but he had an old pickup truck, and he was like, just put your bike in the pickup truck, and I'll take you somewhere where you can like camp for the night. He was so kind, So then, having some help, and then chatting with him a little bit in the pickup, and then he took me to the campsite and the campground, made sure I got a place to camp, and then told me, in the morning where to go to get a new inner tube or get my inner tube fixed and stuff. So it was really so kind, so helpful. It really, yeah, helped me out in a very hard spot. So just like that, when other people are compassionate, kind to us, it makes us so, helps us out so much. Then seeing that, then of course we should be compassionate, kind to others, helpful to others. Then Rinpoche says, even with dogs or animals. Um, yeah, I think even animals, you see them suffering, like see them hungry and give them something, or see them kind of afraid and give them some protection. They feel so happy. Um, like yeah, so if we practice compassion in our relationships, in our family, especially with our partner, then it gives them so much happiness, and then they enjoy being with us. They want to be with us, and then they repay the kindness to us. So it just builds a happy relationship. Therefore, Rinpoche says, therefore we should be kind and compassionate to others and help them, beginning with one's own family, then those in one's extended community, and then in the country, and then in the whole world. So this maps well with one of the important skills in having wholesome relationships mentioned by this psychologist I mentioned yesterday, Joanna Davila, who does a lot of research in what makes healthy romantic relationships. And she says one skill is mutuality. There's a second one, that she mentions out of three. The three she mentions are insight, mutuality, and emotional regulation. So mutuality, she says, I think I mentioned yesterday, but just to mention again, is being concerned about your partner and willing to adapt so that both of your needs can be met. Right? So being compassionate, being kind towards your partner is a natural way of being concerned about them. And then if you have that attitude, naturally you're flexible. You're willing to compromise and find a way together with, and you can communicate clearly, well, as opposed to if you're, very irritated and kind of hostile to them. So you can communicate well and find a way that, both your needs can be met. But one thing she mentions, which I think is quite important, which we don't talk about in Buddhism really very much, is being able to clearly express your needs and the perceived need, being able to clearly express your own needs, right? I think that's so important. Oftentimes we we very falsely assume that other people should know what I want. Other people should know what I like and don't like. Other people should, if they stop and just observe me and think about, what's going on, then they should know like what I need to be happy, the things that annoy me, and they should just not do them. But so often, we know that's not the case. We know, like from our interaction with others, that sometimes there's other things that we do that bothers people, and we have no idea until after many days, many months, and then they tell us or something, or finally it comes out somehow. But we had no idea that this thing we're doing is bothering another person, or that or we feel like we need other people to do things, and for us to kind of be happy, and we assume that they should I mean, sorry, rather we can see that we need to express that ourselves, because sometimes there's other people that they feel like they want us to do certain things, but then they don't tell us, and then they're disappointed when we don't do that. But then and then when they get upset with us, we feel totally like confounded and confused. Like how was it you expected me to know that I'm supposed to do that? I'm supposed to like meet you there. I'm supposed to clean up this in the kitchen, or I'm supposed to like I don't know, do whatever. Um, how could we possibly know? So sometimes, when other people have these unrealistic expectations for us, it should help us realize that, it's essential for us to be able to express our own needs and desires to others if we feel like we want them to be met. It's not fair to get upset at other people for not being able to read our minds, right? So that's part of this kind of mutuality, being able to find and I mean, that relates to, uh, uh, well, I don't know. It relates to kind of a way of caring about other people, is also just helping them know like more about us in a way. Um, mm. And then motivated by compassion. So then there's the ability. Okay. So as part of another from psychology, modern psychology, especially cognitive behavioral therapy or psychology, there's it's called a rupture and repair strategy. So in relationships, I mean, one of the most difficult things is when there's a rupture, there's a disagreement, an argument, a kind of um, sort of a tear in the trust and the understanding and the sense of closeness in a relationship. Is kind of torn, ruptured. But one of the most important things in building, over a long time, building happy and meaningful and sort of what is a nourishing kind of relationships, is the ability to repair after the rupture, right? So after there's a rupture, instead of just like being like, forget it, I never want to talk to you again, I'm just going to leave you and find someone else to be with, but to repair after that. So then there's, yeah, this process that happens again and again, of rupture and repair. But through repair, if you mend ways well, then you can feel closer and have a better understanding of each other, have more trust more trust in each other than you did before, right? So that's and the relationship so can be closer and stronger, more stable than it was before. Mm, mm. Yeah, maybe that's one reason we can kind of see that with our family, in our family, with our siblings especially, or with people we're close to in our family, maybe our parents. I mean, partly with our family, it's like we're stuck together because we're family, so we have to just kind of go through the ups and downs with them. But partly, I mean, family, maybe with long-term friends or whatever partner, you can see that when you've been through many ups and downs with each other, you feel like you have a real sense, a much stronger sense of like, or deeper sense of who the other person is and who not, and you feel much like they know you better, you know them better than other people who you haven't, for whatever reason, you haven't been close enough that you have these major disagreements, and then make up afterwards, like again and again. So there's four main strategies in this rupture and repair uh, kind of method, and so they are the ability to apologize, one, the ability to forgive, which is second, the ability to teach, and here means like teaching by being a good role model, and explaining kind of how you see things. And then the ability to learn from others, right? So I think these are, yeah. So here in relation to compassion in a relationship, I think, I mean, compassion helps so much. If you have like a base attitude of compassion before you have a big rupture, before you have a big disagreement, then it's so much easier to to empathize with the other person and really want to mend ways afterwards, because you see that you feel you're suffering, and you see that, and if you have compassion, you can see that the other person is also suffering. So instead of just holding on to the thing that you disagreed about, the thing that you didn't like that they said or did, the point of contention, instead of just single pointedly grasping to that and then feeling like there's no middle ground, no way for you to kind of find common ground. Rather, if you have an underlying a base attitude of compassion for the other person, seeing that they also experience confusion, they also come under the sway of anger, attachment, ignorance, um, um, you know mistaken ideas, and habitual emotional patterns and ways of reacting from the past. And they also do things that they regret, and just like oneself does, that we're not always totally in control, and we're not always totally in every moment, we're not always exactly the best person that we want to be. We all make mistakes. So with a compassionate attitude, seeing that, then you have much more space to be able to to be able to see what oneself did wrong to hurt the other person and apologize, right? So it's important to be able to see one's in a relationship when there's a rupture. It's extremely important to be able to see one's own, things that oneself has done to hurt the other person, or that were inconsiderate, or that were maybe inappropriate. Um, even if oneself maybe doesn't deeply feel they were very inappropriate, but to be able to see that the other person might have felt that was deeply inappropriate. The way the other person felt about one's actions, one has to take into consideration. So even if oneself didn't feel like one did something particularly wrong, if it was hurtful to the other person, just by that, then it's a reason enough to apologize. But also, we do things that are kind of rude, especially like sending text messages without really thinking how it's going to affect the other person. We easily say things that we wouldn't say face to face. So then, with a compassionate underlying kind of attitude of compassion, then it's very easy. It's much more easy to have the space and clarity of mind again to see how we might have done something hurtful to the other person, and then apologize. So one thing is the ability to apologize, and then the second thing is the ability to forgive. So when another person apologizes for doing something that was hurtful to us, to be able to have the maturity and the kind of generosity of mind to be able to forgive that person and not hold on, not in a small, narrow-minded way, just hold on to resentment for what they did, and not forgive them for it, but insist on them beating them over the head with it for like the next month or something. So first two essential kind of skills for repairing a relationship after a rupture are the ability to see any mistake oneself made and apologize for that. And then when other person sees, that they've done something mistaken and they apologize to us, to be able to forgive them, like sincerely forgive them, and be willing to kind of start over again. And then another thing, then the next one is actually the ability to teach by being a good role model. We spoke about that before. And then the last one, the fourth thing is the ability to learn. So the ability to learn here means like to see what, how in the relationship, how, like what happened, how was there like a communication breakdown or miscommunication such that we came to this misunderstanding? Was it the case that I didn't express my needs clearly, or I wasn't really perceptive to my partner, or I just was, busy and not not thinking about other things, or they were kind of upset at work, and instead of just keeping that at work, they kind of dragged it home and then became very short-tempered and blamed me. So whatever happened, we have to think about that, reflect on that, and then learn from it, and then think about, well, what can I try to do to prevent this from happening again in the future, right? We have to. So I mean, that's one of the best things about mistakes, is that they give us an opportunity to learn so that we don't make that mistake again in the future. So there's this ability to learn. So again, if we have in relationships with other people, if we have an attitude of compassion, seeing that we want to reduce the suffering of the other person, then that itself, it compels us to think about, well, in this relationship, what did I do, or what happened such that they ended up suffering, I ended up suffering, and what can we do to prevent that again in the future, to reduce the likelihood of that. Mm, mm. So that's the way compassion is related to this rupture and repair method, and the ability to apologize, the ability to forgive, the ability to teach, and the ability to learn. Mhm. And then Rinpoche made the point that by being compassionate, we create good karma, thereby creating the causes of happiness for ourselves and others in the future. So from here on in the talk, Rinpoche is largely talking about um, karma. Oh yeah, okay. Uh, yeah, so because what we want, I mean, the main aim in any activity in life largely is to do something meaningful, and then and by that to be satisfied, right? To be happy with the kind of life that we're living, to have yeah, mental peace and happiness, mm, long-term happiness, you could say. So of course, in the Buddhist worldview, then every pleasant experience that we have, from pleasant physical sensation to experiencing pleasant taste, seeing something pleasant, hearing something pleasant, to a pleasant sort of state of mind arising in our continuum, all comes about through the force of karma, right? Through the force of virtuous karma, right? So every pleasant experience we have arises through the force of virtuous karma. Every unpleasant experience we have arises through the force of non-virtuous karma, or negative karma. And so benefit of having an attitude of compassion towards ourselves, towards others, is that because we fundamentally don't want ourselves or others to suffer, then we naturally refrain from doing things that will be harmful to others, whether it's speaking rudely or inappropriately or curtly, or whether it's physically harming another person, or slandering others, um, mm, or yeah, insulting or whatever. So if we have an attitude of compassion, then it prevents us from creating negative karma. So that prevents us from creating the causes of suffering, and so that prevents us from experiencing different forms of suffering, whether a rebirth in a lower realm, or illness, harm, death, betrayal, and so forth in the future. Mm. So, and also having an attitude of compassion, it compels us to create positive karma, to do things that are helpful to other people, to be kind, yeah, to other people. And so, be generous, um, be kind, protect their possessions, protect their lives, speak honestly, truthfully, not deceptively, and so forth. And thereby we create good karma. Thereby we create the causes to experience good fortune and happiness in the future. Mm. So therefore, especially if we're in a relationship, in relation to our partner, again, it's important to be compassionate, because it compels us to uh, act ethically in the relationship, not do things that are harmful, and do things that are helpful. And then that creates causes for our own well-being and happiness. And so it becomes a cycle whereby we act in an ethical, positive way, and then we receive fortunate circumstances, which enable us to continue to do that in the future. And it's also important, then Rinpoche says, it's also important to develop wisdom, but here we mean the wisdom of Buddha Dharma, which, and then he says, try to live as much as possible, abandoning negative karma and creating positive karma. Help each other, so in a couple, help each other as much as you can to abandon negative karma and create causes for happiness, create positive karma. This brings much benefit from life to life, not only in this one. So in a relationship with our partner, we can also, as part of that relationship, make not only we try to abandon creating negative karma and positive karma, but make that part of one's, understanding or communication, or make that kind of a joint project that together you do things to create positive karma. Together you help each other notice when you're doing things that might create a negative karma. Like when you have to talk about discussion, have discussions about, what kind of job to do in the workplace, how to deal with different situations that arise, how to deal with different relatives that may be difficult to deal with, how to react when a neighbor needs something or whatever. Then, so, and in the way you live your life together, you can try to support one another in doing actions that create positive karma, and refraining from actions that would create negative karma by making that, if you can, express explicit part of one's kind of thinking and discussion process, right? Thinking about what kind of karma are we creating. And so by doing so, then together you create causes for experience happiness together in that life, in the future lives as well. And so you can grow together from life to life. Like this is, the good example is in the Jataka tales. In the Jataka tales, there's so many stories about the Buddha's past lives, but I don't remember. I haven't looked at them in a long time, but I know there's stories about, especially the Buddha in his past lives, how he was related with different family members, in different kinds of relationships with his wife, Yasodhara, how they did, virtuous things together. And then that led them to being able to meet in his life as, Prince Gautama, and also in relation to his father and his mother, how in past lives, as friends or as different kind of family relationships, or then they did things together, to benefit beings. Like I think in the Golden Light Sutra, there's definitely a story about this doctor and the doctor's son who comes across a pond in the forest which is drying up and filled with fish, and then he employs the help of his father and the king, I think, to cut down branches and put over the pond to create shade for the fish, and maybe haul them some water. But then I think they all die in the end. It dries up and they die. But before they die, he teaches them the Dharma. But he was saying, there were several people working together to kind of help relieve the suffering of the fish. And he says how, those people were like, I don't know, his father or mother, other relatives in the past lives. And through that, through helping the fish in that way at that time, then they created the cause at the time that he was reborn as Prince Gautama to offer Dharma to the whole world, sort of. So we can think about, it's very helpful. I think it's very uncommon in the world now that in a relationship with a partner, that we think about, well, the way we relate in this life, what is that going to mean for future lives? And how if we'll meet or not, or when we meet in future lives, then how we'll interact with each other. So I think it's a very helpful way to think. It's if you're in a happy relationship, it means you both have created causes in past lives to be able to meet in this life and relate and have a positive way of relating with each other, which is quite amazing, right? So then to think about that, and then think about, okay, well then in this life, how can we create causes together so that in future lives we can meet again and continue to help each other and be a beneficial influence on each other in a beneficial influence on each other in future lives. And even make joint aspirations that in the future may be able to do this and this and this together. Um, mm. And then, mm, hmm. So then the next point Rinpoche makes is that practicing Dharma is the best way of caring for yourself and your partner. So of course, I mean, there's ordinary ways of caring, like, making meals for each other, helping each other, like clean the house, do errands, like shopping, pay the bills, um, work to earn money to be able to support, pay your mortgage or pay your rent and pay expenses for things. So of course, there's all those ordinary things which are very important and excellent, but 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 it's important to realize that um, like our prosperity, for example, and our prosperity in this life is a result of practicing generosity in past lives. Our when receiving help from others in this life is a result of helping others in the past lives, or having other people being honest with us, and truthful with us is a result of us being honest, um, in our communication with others in past lives. So recognizing how karma, law of cause and effect, works, then Rinpoche is saying, like, the best way of caring for um, your partner is to help them practice Dharma by understanding the law of cause and effect, and oneself acting according to that, speaking about that, and then encouraging them to also take into consideration, karma, the law of cause and effect, how what you send around, it comes back around, or what goes around comes around. Means the way you treat others, in short, is the way that you'll be treated in the future, right? The kind of karma that you create, whether it's harmful or helpful, is the kind of experience that you yourself will have in the future. Mm. So then the opposite of that is, like, by giving ourselves over to ignorance and selfishness, then we create our own suffering, right? So then Rinpoche goes into explaining more about some of the details of karma. So how all of the negative karma we create, it comes about through ignorance, on the one hand, not understanding that it's true that the way, the kind of actions that we engage in, they determine the sort of experience that we have in the future. So being ignorant of the existence of past and future lives, being ignorant of the law of karma, law of cause and effect of karma, so in the darkness of ignorance of that, then acting just according to our selfish attitude, thinking of what I want, what I like, alone, irregardless of how it affects other people. Then through that, we engage in all the different negative actions, right? So there's the 10 non-virtuous actions primarily that the Buddha set out. The 3 of body: killing, stealing, and like adultery. And then the 3 of speech: lying, slander, harsh speech or insulting speech, and idle chatter, so gossip or meaningless idle chatter, meaningless speech. And then the 3 of mind, of covetousness, coveting others' possessions, wanting to, out of attachment, wanting to have them for oneself. And then malice, disliking others and wanting to, wishing ill, having ill will, wishing harm upon them. And then wrong views, so such as thinking that past and future life don't exist. There's no law of karma. It doesn't exist whatsoever. Doesn't matter what one does whatsoever. So in the sutra, in the Dharmapada, actually, so the Dharmapada is this collection of verses from different sutras just compiled together. It's both in the Pali canon, also in the Sanskrit canon. So the very first 2 verses from the very first chapter of the Dharmapada are about karma. And he gives a nice analogy. So the Buddha gives a nice analogy about how karma is like the shadow of an ox. Some say, here it says the foot of an ox. Some say it's like an ox-drawn cart. When Rinpoche translates it, Rinpoche quotes these 2 verses very often, talking about karma. So I inserted them here. It says, the mind precedes all mental states. Mind is the chief. They are all mind wrought. So all mental states are mind wrought. With an impure mind, that means they're produced by the mind. With an impure mind, a person speaks or acts. Okay, if with an impure mind is a negative mind, a mind tainted by selfishness, by covetous, greed, anger, belligerence, dislike, disdain, arrogant pride, and so forth. So if with an impure mind means a mind of having afflictive emotions, if with an impure mind a person speaks or acts, then suffering follows him like the wheel that follows the foot of an ox. Oh yeah, so like the wheel, not the shadow, the wheel that follows the foot of an ox. So imagine an ox-drawn cart. Wherever the ox walks, wherever the oxes walk, wherever their feet fall, there the wheels go right. They go right behind them, without question. So it's basically saying karma is just like that. So if and karma all arises from whether something's a negative karma or positive karma depends upon the mind. So all of your actions of speech and body, what makes them virtuous or non-virtuous is mainly your attitude, your intention, your motivation. So that's why it says the mind precedes all mental states. So our intention, our mind, what do we intend? If we have a harmful, a negative intention, then what follows is harmful mental states, harmful speech, and harmful action. And then what follows that is, we experience suffering. So the mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. So mind is like the most powerful moving force. They are all mind wrought. If with an impure mind a person speaks or acts, suffering follows him like the wheel that follows the foot of the ox. And then the opposite. So that's the negative side. Now the positive side. Mind, and so it repeats again. Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind wrought. If with a pure mind, so instead of an impure mind, here a pure mind. So if with a pure mind, a person speaks or acts, happiness follows him like his never departing shadow. So here the analogy is slightly different. It's like a person walking and the shadow following them, but it's the same kind of thing. So if with a pure mind, then we speak, we think or speak or act, then we create positive karma. As a result of that, then happiness. We have pleasant, happy experiences, fortunate experiences follow us like a shadow that never departs. Um, mm. So that's from the Dharmapada. So it's so important to check, the state of our mind every moment, from the morning we get up from the moment we get up in the morning until we go to bed in the evening, and even as we fall off to sleep, to see like what is our state of mind. That's why, at this session, every session we have here, at the beginning, we take some time just to sit quietly and check the state of our mind and try to generate a positive, think, why am I here? Why am I engaging in this session? Why am I spending my time this way? And try to generate a very positive aspiration, a very positive motivation or reason for doing what we're doing. So like that, it's very important all during the day, from the moment we get up in the morning till the time we go to bed, to think, each thing we're doing, we're going, so like when we leave Choe Khor Sum Ling, when we leave this room and go to the next place we're going, as we're going on the road, to think, okay, where am I going and why am I going there? What do I hope to achieve? What do I intend to achieve? If we're going to meet someone, why am I going to meet this person? What's the purpose? And what do I hope to, what good thing do I hope will come about by meeting this person? Then as we're speaking with the person about, different things, about this and then that and that, why am I speaking about each of those things with this person? To, every moment to try to generate a very positive motivation, a very pure mind. And to generate a very pure mind on one hand, and then also to be aware of when impure minds arise. I mean, from time to time, we all have impure minds arise, but we want to be aware of that immediately and recognize that as like, a poisonous snake that's just come into my room, and like that could potentially give me or others great harm, and like get it out, right? So when we see, we're looking at others, and, we all have little judgments that, oh, why are they dressed like that? Why are they acting like that? Why are they doing that? Then to see that, and instead of following that kind of, critical, niggling sort of a negative mind, try to transform into a positive, try to generate some understanding, some compassion, some tolerance, and just a virtuous intention towards that person. It doesn't mean we have to like everything that everybody else does. Of course, that's not realistic, but we can at least have some understanding to see, when we see other people doing things that we don't like, it's not like it's without a reason. And then the reason doesn't necessarily justify, but it's because, either out of their own, misunderstanding, their own, laziness or whatever, but at least we can have some kind of compassion, hoping that, they'll kind of find a way to be a better person in the future, just as we continually strive to, see our own mistakes and correct them, right? So, yeah, so it's important in essence here, though, to check our state of mind from moment to moment to see if it's pure or impure, recognizing that an impure state of mind, a disturbed, selfish, tormented sort of state of mind, it'll lead us to create actions which create suffering for ourselves, just like a shadow, just like the wheel of a cart follows the foot of the ox that's pulling it. And then, and whereas if we have a pure state of mind, a wholesome, benevolent state of mind from moment to moment, with each that motivates each of our actions, then we naturally engage in virtuous actions. Being honest, being kind, being generous, being helpful, speaking about meaningful things as opposed to meaningless things, complimenting others that we know, or speaking about them with a sincere sense of concern rather than just dismissively speaking about their faults, in a way that creates disharmony and division among people, and so forth. So with a pure mind, then we engage in virtuous actions of our thought and then speech and body, and then that creates virtuous karma, and then happiness and good fortune, pleasant experiences follow us like a shadow following a body. And then so then Rinpoche spoke about there's 4 types of karmic results. So the different results of karma, there's 4 types of karmic results. One is, well, then I'll just read the names first and then explain them. One is called the ripening result. The second is, well, maybe I'll explain them as we go, otherwise it doesn't make sense. So the ripening result is it's a result that throws us into a rebirth. So one kind of result of karma is that the most powerful karmas, they throw us into a type of rebirth. So as we die from a life, then craving and grasping arise in our mind to continue to exist, and then that causes karmas that we've created in the karmic seeds that we've created and planted in our continuum in the past to ripen. So only one seed, which is well, there's different ways to determine like which one will ripen, but it mainly depends. If we die with a positive state of mind, then it triggers a virtuous karmic seed to ripen. If we die with a very negative state of mind, it triggers a non-virtuous karmic seed to ripen, which throws us. So non-virtuous karmic seeds throw us into rebirth in one of the 3 lower realms, as a rebirth as a hell being, a hungry ghost, or an animal, where our experience is predominated by suffering and confusion. Whereas virtuous karmic seeds, they throw us into rebirth in a happy realm, an upper realm or a happy realm, as a human being or a deva or a god, or a demigod. Yeah, I forgot the word for demigod in Sanskrit. Anyway, asura. Yeah, sura or asuras. Suras and asuras. Exactly. Huh. But how does sura mean? Because usually the god we translate as deva. No. What's the difference between a sura and a deva? Sura, asura and asura. So what's a sura versus a deva? Is it the same?
I think asura is devil.
Asura is a kind of deva.
No, it's a devil.
A devil. Oh, really? Asura, yeah, because a means like not, no?
Yeah.
Oh. But here we don't mean, so when we talk about, well, what's usually translated in English, from the Tibetan, it's translated in English as gods and demigods. So demigods, they're not a devil though. They're kind of God that's just like inferior. Within gods, there's those that are superior and those that are inferior. Like those that are more powerful, they have more, they're more attractive, they have more kind of opulent sort of lifestyle. and those that are like they have less, they're less powerful, they have less kind of luxurious surroundings, and they're less attractive and so forth. But they're still gods. They're still like way better than humans.
But in Hindi, it is Sur and Asur. Sur is God and Asur is devil.
But asura means like devil, like evil spirit kind of thing. Oh, really?
Kind of.
So they go around like harming people.
Yeah, they do.
No, I don't know.
They
You guys have? You don't think so? No. It's translated as demigods.
Actually, these meanings have been lost through the years.
Yeah.
So people interpret it.
So if you talk about
Anti-gods. Yeah. Yeah.
so if you talk about Ram and Ravan, right? So
Yeah.
Rama is a god,
Yeah.
and Ravana is a devil.
Is Ravana the one who abducted the wife of Ram,
Yeah.
whose name is?
I mean, the word devil also it's being used, but in Indian context, they didn't say devil, right? He was a very powerful man, Ravan, very capable. He was a devotee of Shiva.
But he was a man, or he was like a deva?
No,
I thought he was like a deva. Oh, he was a man.
not Deva because he had some strong negative qualities also.
Right.
So,
Okay. Anyway, there's yeah, and the Buddhism actually, so because what we're talking about is through the force of virtuous karma, you take rebirth in an upper realm. And there's three kinds of rebirth: as a human being, and then, but human beings, like we have to rely on food, on core sustenance, on taking food, right? And then, because we take food, then we defecate, we have feces and urine, and then we have odor come from our bodies and stuff. Whereas the quality of gods, whether they're gods of the desire realm or gods of the form realm or formless realm, is that they don't, well, one of the main qualities is they don't have to take core sustenance on food. That their bodies are sustained by their merit through which they've taken rebirth. And so they don't have, I believe they don't have sexual organs, and they don't have like odor coming from their bodies, like bad odor coming from their bodies. They don't have urine and feces and stuff like that. So, and they don't have to work. Like because we're humans and we need food, then we have to plow fields and plant crops and then harvest the crops, and we have to do all this hard work to like earn food. Whereas gods don't have to do that because they're just sustained by their merit. Then they don't have to like work. So they have lives of leisure because they don't have to earn food. They don't need I think they also probably don't need dwelling places. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they also don't need like houses and buildings. They just dwell in the environment because their environment is so pleasant that there's nothing like to harm them. So they don't need, a place to be protected from the cold or the rain or the hot sun and so forth, because their environment is like so pleasant because they've taken rebirth through the force of much greater merit than humans have, right? Mm.
Can we put it like middle of the it comes in center, it's middle of God, human, but they have more superior than human, but when we go about the God, they inferior. So
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a middle. Yeah, they're gods, but they're like lesser gods, less powerful, less affluent, and so forth. But the gods and the demigods are always like fighting each other. Yeah.
In our history, because of this, one religious tree is connected to the heaven. So gods are. There's a one tree, okay. I don't know this name, but it was rooted in the Thamai space, but all the branches and fruit are going to the heaven.
Yeah.
So always the god and the anti-god, they are fighting for the tree because it belongs to the both of them, right?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, is it in there? I haven't heard that explanation. I've heard more like the demigods, their women are really beautiful, and the gods are attracted to the women of the demigods, so they come in and abduct them, which kind of fits with the Ramayana. But and then they're fighting over over women, basically. That's the explanation I've heard.
I think the demigod translation also looks
Demigod translation is not. right?
In Tibetan, it's called Hamayin.
Yeah, Lamayan. Yeah, which is a good translation of asura. I mean, asura, means not, no? So it means not sura, yeah. Yeah, but it's a weird term because actually they are, well, I don't know, they are like a kind of God, right? So that's why I don't know. Yeah, anyway. I'm not sure how the terminology works, but at least we understand the meaning is the main thing. But it is good to figure out like why do they use that term, like sura versus asura. But sura is like a god, right? Yeah. Maybe they just say, and not God because they're not the same as that God, but they're still an inferior class of God. But it's a little strange. It's like not human, you know. Well, I mean, we kind of say that about someone who's not human, someone who doesn't act like a human. They're actually a human, but they act like a very, like not like a human should, like a very inferior way.
We are not sure about this concept. It is just that whatever we are thinking or giving you the explanation has come from the TV serials. This is what we have been seeing
Right,
from
right,
our
right.
childhood, right?
Yeah,
They have considered Ravana as a Asura and Rama as a
Asura.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that the fight is over power. So that's want more power
And like territory or
yeah, the ability to
control. Yeah.
and also luxury because the gods have luxury and these people they want more.
Yeah, maybe they're attacking the gods to get more luxury. Yeah, I
In
don't know.
other way, they
They're
don't
fighting.
like what Sura are doing. I mean, they want to destroy whatever they are doing.
The Suras.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, they're fighting over something. But anyway, those are three kinds of rebirth. So this is all in terms of the four different effects of karma. Then there's the one is through the one kind of effect through throwing karmas, we experience the effect. It's called the ripening effect. It means we take rebirth in a certain in a lower realm or upper realm. That's the first kind of effect of karma. And then a second effect of karma. So the second two are called the result that's similar to the cause. So there's two types. A result that's similar to the cause in terms of what one experiences. So that's what we usually think about as a type of karmic effect, is that the kind of things the way we treat other people, the kind of things we do, then we'll experience those sort of things happening to us. So if we kill insects, by putting out poison and things, then in the future we'll experience our life force being harmed in a similar way. If we lie to others again and again, then in the future we'll experience being lied to and deceived. If we're very miserly and are never generous to others, then in the future we won't experience other people being generous to us, and when we're in need, we won't receive what we need, just like we didn't give to others, and so forth and so on. So we experience there's the effect of having the kind of experience that is similar to the cause that we created. And then the second kind of result that's similar to the cause is the habitual action that we do. So there's a result that's similar to the cause in terms of one's own habitual behavior. So if we, in this life, if I really say I'm a hunter and I really, take so much interest and spend so much time and energy learning how to go around and kill things, then in the future life, even as a very young child, I'll have that proclivity again to do that, have the desire to do that again. Or in this life, if if I'm very miserly and stingy with my possessions, kind of hoard and keep all my things to myself, then in a future life, even as a young child, I'll be like that. I'll not want to share anything and not want to give anything to others and kind of hoard and sort of think how to get things and keep things for myself alone. Whereas if I'm in this life, if I'm always very generous and not very possessive of my things and say, oh, someone likes something, oh yeah, you can have that, please have this, always looking to offer things to others, then in the future life, even as a young child, I'll just naturally be very generous and very easy to share and give things, share my things with others, give things to others, give away things. So you can see among young children, there's real differences like that. That's quite independent of how their parents act. It seems like they really have some kind of habituation carried over from past lives. So that's one of the strong reasons to to assert that karma is not just a Buddhist made up thing, it's an actual thing, you know, that by looking at the behavior of young children and how they have this seem to be born with very strong personalities, and very strong kind of proclivities that are totally independent of their influence of their parents or their surroundings. Okay, so there's those three kinds of results, so forth. The ripening result of how we take rebirth, the result similar to the cause in terms of what one experiences, and the result similar to the cause in terms of one's own behavior and behavioral habituation, or the kind of behaviors that we habitually or naturally have a proclivity towards. And then the final one is the environmental result. So the type of environment we're born into. So maybe, you know, we create the karma to take rebirth as human. What's the main cause to take rebirth as a human? Practicing pure morality, not harming others, refraining from 10 non-virtuous actions, living our life with moral, you know, ethical conduct. So even we create the karma to take rebirth as human, but we can see among all the humans just on planet Earth, like they take rebirth in many different environments. Like those who take rebirth in Bangalore, I was just thinking, because I was in Singapore recently. In Singapore, it's always so hot and like humid. It's very uncomfortable. Like you always have to have the AC on or have a fan on or something. Whereas in Bangalore now, it's like here, it's so cool and dry, you know, such a nice climate. So for example, you can see some people that even take rebirth as human, but they take, but the environment that they're in, like maybe they take rebirth in like, you know, Afghanistan in the mountains or something where it's very dry and rocky and very difficult to make a living. Like everyone is struggling. Even when I go to, you know, Mungod, there's another Buddhist monasteries in Mungod. Sometimes we have to go there for debate. I always feel like the people's lives there, like Mungod is Mungod is a little town outside the monasteries, whereas in Balakupe, where I am, you know, Kushanagar is the little town. Like Kushanagar is such a nice town. Like everything you need, you can just get within a few blocks. There's like nice restaurants. There's a river on one side. You know, people are quite relaxed, happy, prosperous. There's like great coffee. You know, it's quite a nice town. Whereas you go to Mungod and it's like, you know, like a ghost town in the Old West or something. Like it's dusty. And you know, the street is all like broken. The shops are all like, there's nothing very nice in the shops. It's hard to find a decent restaurant to even get a meal. And the people you see walking around, I think because like the environment there is much more dry. The land is less fertile. It's much harder to grow crops. The crops that they can grow, they get much less profit from. It's much harder to make a living. So there's a lot more poverty. So people's lives are just harder. So you're born into that, you know, why is one person born into like, you know, a family in that kind of area, in Mungod, and another person's born into like a family, even, you know, average family, but in like Marikiri, where there's like so easy to make a lot of money. You know, you grow coffee, grow pepper, grow like cardamom. You know, it's like it rains all the time. It's nice climate. Stuff's just growing everywhere. It's so easy to make like a good living. It's karma, no?
Monsoon time, whenever it's been, whenever they constructed the road, it will destroy with heavy rain.
In Mungod?
Yes.
Oh, really? Ah, and also it's just muddy. That's what they say. When it's dry, it's dusty. When it rains, it's all muddy. You know, it's like never nice there almost. And it's so hot. Like when the hot season is so hot, all night long it's hot. At least in Balikupi in the hot season, it's hot in the day, but at night it's cool. There's always like a nice cool breeze coming from the mountains. But so yeah, so why are people born in those kind of different environments? Due to their karma. You know, even they both have the karma to be reborn as a human, but due to some kind of negative karma, you're born in an environment where it's very difficult to think, you know, make a living. Due to you know, positive karma, you're born in an environment where it's very pleasant, very easy to have a good living. You know, it's karma. Otherwise, what's the explanation? Otherwise, there's no explanation. You know, a creator God determined, oh, you're going to do, you're going to do there, or there's no reason at all. It's just random. Then it doesn't matter what we do. Anyway, so there's those four results of karma. The ripening result similar to the cause in terms of what we experience. Result similar to the cause in terms of our own habitual, what kind of behaviors we habitually engage in, and then the environmental result, what kind of environment we're born into. So, so finally, we create the causes for suffering and experience it again and again endlessly. So as long as we don't understand, you know, the law of cause and effect, or even we understand it, but we don't pay attention to it, we don't heed it, we don't follow, then we just, habitually, it's like, do you have to make effort to like get angry or act selfishly or act with attachment, or does it just happen naturally? It just happens naturally. It just arises. We don't have to make any effort to like, get irritated or be selfish. It just happens like automatically. So if we just follow those kind of afflictive emotions that habitually arise without trying to, reduce them and trying to generate in their place, kindness, compassion, positive emotions, then, as long as we habitually follow selfishness, arrogant pride, um, disregard for others, then we habitually engage in non-virtuous actions, then we experience suffering. And, one of the worst effects is this habitual action. We become habituated to acting, with pride, with greed, with selfishness, with anger. And then we create cause for suffering. We create the causes to act like that again in the future. Then from the time we take rebirth among other people who have a similar attitude in a negative environment, and then it becomes harder and harder to change. No, right now we find ourselves in such a good situation where we're surrounded by good kind people. We have exposure to brilliant teachings of His Holiness Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche and the Buddhist teachings in general. And we have opportunity. We're quite have some prosperity, so we don't have to work like really hard to make a living, and we have some room to be able to decide like what kind of person I want to be. There's so many people in the world that don't have that space. Every day is just a struggle to get food, to get water, to be able to pay, for education for the children, for medicine. There's no space to think about like what kind of person I want to be. There's just a struggle for survival. So if we're not in that situation, and then there's the other extreme of people who are just surrounded by, think of the really, really super wealthy, famous people, just, surrounded by people with a totally hedonistic attitude. All they think about is like, what are my friends going to think? I want to buy this new kind of outfit. I'm go to this place and take photos and post it online so everybody sees me, and then, hook up with this person and get this job, and then, get this kind of status, and just obsessed with this kind of reputation and power and pleasure. That's the other kind of extreme. It also leaves very little space for like thinking sincerely about what is a meaningful life? Like what's a meaningful way to use my life? What's going to happen after I die in future lives? So if we find ourselves kind of in the middle, not having to extremely struggle and also not being completely caught up in like worldly trips, then, and have some good influences like His Holiness Dalai Lama, other spiritual teachers, then it's a very incredibly fortunate circumstance, and we can use that by day to day, being very mindful and deliberate about what kind of actions we're doing, motivated by what kind of mind. Do I have a pure mind or an impure mind? Am I engaging in meaningful actions or meaningless actions? What kind of causes am I creating for, or what kind of causes am I creating for the type of person I'm going to be in the future, in this life, in next lives? What's my long-term goal? What am I aiming for? So maybe I'll just mention one more thing, and then it's a good place to stop in the outline. So emotional regulation. So yeah, where is the coffee? It's already 11:15. I thought the coffee would be here by now, Sadhana.
I called him up at 10:30 itself and I ordered it.
What is he doing? Maybe it's because Diwali. He has a huge like coffee order, or he's taking a holiday, or.
We have to meet with the coffee and then make it meeting. He's just drinking. That's why I've been following her up. That's why you see me going up and down.
Okay.
So immediately he comes, you just give me 2 minutes and then you can take the break.
But when is he coming?
He says he's coming for.
Okay.
In 5 minutes.
I can only talk for so long, Sadhana, and then I run out of steam.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Anyway, we'll just talk about emotion regulation.
No, I feel vindicated. Usually I'm ready before you are.
I know you are. I kept looking over at your table to see like.
I'm not. The silence.
There was a bottle of water there before. Now that's gone. I'm not sure where that went. It's over there. Okay.
So it doesn't fall here.
Anyway, we can have a discussion in just a minute. So anyway, last thing. So this is the last strategy by this other psychologist, Joanna Davila, who has some very nice YouTube videos. Joanna Davila. I think she's from New York. But so she says for having wholesome relationships, romantic relationships, then insight, mutuality, and emotion regulation are important. So I already spoke about emotion regulation a bit about yesterday, but basically means having kind of an even keel, Like, I don't know, do you guys know that analogy? An even keel in a boat has a keel. A keel is like a sailboat. So think like a sailboat, there's the hull, there's the underside of the boat, and that's what, it's hollow inside. So that's what keeps the boat floating on the surface, is it's this hollow kind of shell. And then there's a rudder in the back is what steers the boat. So the rudder turns back and forth. So that's how you turn right and left. But then in the middle, but the hull is very light and the rudder is just it's a small thing in the back. So you need something to weight the boat down, to keep it down in the water and keep it going straight, because the wind is blowing it, because a sailboat, it moves by the wind pushing the sail with a lot of force. So if there's no keel, then the wind will just push the whole boat like off to the side, whatever the way the wind's blowing. So to keep the boat like the keel is usually made of like lead or something like really heavy. It's attached to the bottom of the boat. So it has weight holding it down in the water so the waves don't just roll the boat over. So it prevents big waves from rolling the boat over. Another is it's long and straight. The keel is quite long and straight. So it prevents the wind from just like pushing the boat this way or that way, because the wind pushes against the sail and then it pushes against the keel, but because the keel is long and straight, it pushes against the water and it doesn't just move like that. It stays like keeps the boat going straight, whatever direction. Yeah. So when we say, that person has a very even keel, it means like they're quite like, they don't get just pushed around by, someone says this and then they do that, and then someone says this and then they do that. But or something bad happens and they feel terrible. Something good happens and they feel like elated, or they stay quite like grounded. So they're kind of stay sort of, don't go up and down a lot and don't go like back and forth, but stay kind of steady course, have kind of a good. So in terms of emotions, that means your emotions aren't like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down, up and down, which is very exhausting. If one day we feel really, really happy and then, somebody compliments us or tells us something nice and we think, oh, that person likes me so much, and then we feel really happy. And the next person tells us something we don't like, and then we feel really bad, or something, goes wrong. I don't know, buy something at the store and then go to the next store and find out we just paid like twice as much than we should have paid for or something. So if we're in our life, if we're like really up and down, it's very exhausting. And also we feel very unstable. We feel kind of ungrounded, not balanced. We feel very vulnerable because we think, whether I'm happy or not happy, I'm not in control. It's just, I'm at the whim of like a leaf being blown here and there by the wind. I'm at the whim of like everything else that's happening in the world. So rather than that, we want to have good emotional regulation. Means we can regulate emotions. For something bad happens, we can have the bigger picture and see like, well, it's not that bad and things will go better, gradually. I just have to be patient and get through it. Something good happens, we also have to think, well, it's not that good. I still have to like, I don't know, brush my teeth and go to bed and get up and go to work in the morning. It's not, and also, especially like people compliment us. I think it's one of the biggest dangers of being really unrealistically elated is people praise us for doing something. Then, when people praise us for doing something, it's helpful to remember, well, someone else will likely criticize me for the same thing. And just kind of be realistic about things. Or even when things are going really well, to recognize, well, I could well get sick or I could die tomorrow or whatever. So just have kind of an even attitude about the reality of, yeah, good things and bad things happen to us, but it's important not to be too emotionally like reactive to them and be up and down. So in terms of interpersonal relationship with another person, our close relationship with another person, a partner or something, then it's important not to overreact to things, that they say. Like if they suddenly change their mind and be like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Don't get like suddenly upset about that. And then, go off and tell them how, you don't trust them, don't like them anymore. because that just make everything worse. Rather just keep an even keel and you know, and ask, well, like, well, you know, what's going on? What's happened? Why do you feel like that? Are you sure? Have you thought about this, this, and this? Talk about, you know, just talk about something in a kind of, you know, a calm, kind, you know, reasonable way. And then, you know, oftentimes if another person is really having a bad day and kind of, you know, just really upset, then if they see that you're, if, you know, I mean, especially sometimes we test each other, just like children or children with their parents, you know, and they test to see if you react. So if you don't react, and rather you stay calm and, you know, kind, considerate, then they see that and they trust you, and then that also helps them to calm down and be more sort of open-minded and realistic and calm about the whole situation and deal with it in a whole much more mature way. So in short, it's good to have kind of be even keeled, have good emotional regulation, keep a sort of equilibrium or balance, and that is very beneficial. It's very beneficial for one doesn't become emotionally kind of exhausted and unstable, and it makes other people trust one and like to be around one, and it helps to kind of if we create a habit of that, you know, it's not something that happens naturally necessarily. We have to put effort into trying to be, you know, when we see ourselves starting to get, you know, too elated or too depressed, we have to see that and then use antidotes to try to, you know, keep ourselves from going, you know, to one extreme or another. It doesn't mean we have to feel like a piece of cardboard all the time, like we can't feel things. We can still feel and experience, you know, real joy and real sadness, but don't let that lead into a whole kind of dramatic emotional trip. Just, you know, experience that with kind of wisdom. Yeah. So now our coffee's come. We can have a break. So let's have a 10-minute break. For those online, you can make some coffee at home or tea. And the importance of compassion, the ability to apologize, ability to forgive, ability to learn.
I just want to understand. So you were referring that, you know, a person born in a bad environment because of his, family ticket, right?
Mm.
So now a person is he's probably born in some bad environment or bad place or whatever you can say that. So that is because of his previous birth karmas, right? Now that continues just because I had bad karmas in my previous birth. So that continues in my next birth, or do I have a chance to convert those into something good?
Yeah. Good question. No, so it's not fixed. Yeah, you can change your karma. So, well, because you're saying a little bit. I wouldn't disagree. So you're saying, say a person is born in a bad rebirth, like in an environment, not a good environment, and it's due to the karma that they created in their previous rebirth. It's not good. It's not due to the karma that caused their previous rebirth. It's due to the karma that they created in the previous rebirth. So due to their own actions, their own intentional actions, then they took rebirth in this kind of negative environment. Now, I mean, karma. There's so many varieties, but like, one person born in that kind of like hostile environment, they might have the karma to live their whole life in that environment. Whereas another person, they only have the karma maybe to spend a few years there, and then their whole family moves to some other place, or they get older and then they move away. Like I don't know. Well, anyway, I know one man who lives near Balakupe who's never been to Mysore. Like, no, he's been to Mysore. He's never been to Bangalore. He's been to Mysore a few times, but he's so poor. He's very, very poor. Like, he doesn't have any land. He doesn't farm. He just works in like day labor for other people. And so he never, and he has, a lot of kids, and his kids have kids. And so he's been to Mysore a few times. He's never been to Bangalore even. not to mention anywhere else in India. Like, so like him, you know, he has the karma to spend his whole life there in that kind of village. Whereas I know another man who was born in the same village, also too, his father was also not wealthy. They have a little bit of land, but very quite poor family also. But you know, his family, his father saved up enough that he went to college in, I don't know, Mysore or something, and then he went to work for a while in like Madhya Pradesh or something like that, and then moved back to take care of his mother when his father died. But he's, you know, so he's been around a bit, and you know, he has. So anyway, so just because a person is born into a certain place due to a certain karma, it doesn't mean they'll spend their whole life there. And so that karma, it comes, it becomes exhausted, right? It gets used up, and then once the karma is finished, then you know, then a different karma ripens. And so a person creates karma. Karma actually means it's the mental factor of intention. So whenever we do something intentionally, we're creating karma. So the person creates new karma in that life, and then when they die, a different karma will ripen. But it's not that always, you know, at the time I die, what kind of rebirth will it take? It doesn't always depend on what I've done in this life. Because in, you know, we've had countless past lives. Each of those lives we've created karma, and so created karmic seeds, and we have all those seeds in our continuum. So it could be like, even I have a very virtuous life, I'm a very good person this life, but when I die, somehow, you know, I get very angry about something, remember something somebody did or whatever, get very angry. And that anger causes a very negative karma to ripen that I didn't create in this life, that I created in some past life. Or the opposite can happen. No? But it's very important to have a very wholesome state of mind at the time of death, because that triggers what kind of karma ripens to throw us into a rebirth. But in short, you can change. You know? And it's not also that we always go up and up and up and up. We go up, down, up, down, up, down.
Okay, so just curious, now you were referring to this person who has never been to Bangalore. And you're saying that, you know, he's been throughout his life. So just curious then how his next birth will be.
Well, it depends what kind of karma he creates and how he dies. No, so he has. I mean, I know him quite well because he works at Copan House. He's an employee. He's like the kind of day worker at Copan House. But he has very mixed karma. I mean, I can see from the way the things he does. Like he's really lazy. He always tries to get out of work, and he always is begging. He's always asking people for money, you know, when he shouldn't. Like he's always asking, you know, can I have 10 rupees or 5 rupees or this and that, and he'll really try to like do as little work as possible, which is not, you know, it's not a good attitude. But the other hand, sometimes he really does work very hard when he doesn't have to. Like when there's a special occasion, sometimes he'll really work hard, and then sometimes he really has faith in the monks. Like sometimes we'll be doing a puja, like a special puja, and he'll see it's something special, and he'll come and want to offer like 10 rupees or. Like Lama Zopa Rinpoche came to our house the other day, and he knows, like we all consider Lama Zopa Rinpoche very, you know, very like holy guru. And see, so he also has some faith, and he'll stand and wait, and also sort of make some prayers and maybe make some offering or something. So he does some very virtuous things also. And then, I mean, there's many other things he do. I don't know about his whole life. Like he has children, he's raised his children, and he's very concerned about his children. You know, he loves them a lot, and he wants to provide for them and stuff. So, you know, so like most of us, you know, he has mixed karma, right? So which karma will ripen when he dies largely depends upon his attitude, you know, his state of mind at the time of death, you know, as he's nearing death. If he has a lot of like resentment and like, oh, these people, they didn't treat me well, they didn't pay me enough, or you know, this person cheated me and and have a lot of resentment in the mind, for example, it's a negative state of mind, then that'll cause like a negative karma to ripen. Well, first of all, maybe I should say, the karma that will ripen to throw his next rebirth, it's not necessarily a karma he created in this life. Like that's what I was just saying. It could be a karma he's created in a previous life. But just looking at this life as an example, it's mixed. You know, there's mixed karmas. So which karma will ripen for the next life largely depends upon the state of mind at the time one dies. But it also depends on which karma is the most powerful in one's mind. like which kind of karmic action is one most powerfully like habituated to, or like if one is, each of us, we can think of our lives and what kind of powerful karmic actions we've created, like they're very good or very bad, and it depends upon in relation to whom we created it, the attitude that we had, when we created that karma, and then what we did, if it was something very powerfully negative or very powerfully positive. So, for example, like our parents are very powerful karmic objects, because they gave birth to us, they cared for us as we're growing up. So, anything we do in relation to our parents becomes a very powerful karma. Or also our spiritual teacher, anyone we take as a guru, then they're a very powerful karmic object for us. So yeah, so then so there's, in short, there's many factors that determine like what kind of rebirth you take. But one of the main, I guess you can think the two main ones are what you habituate your mind to in this life. Like that's why it's so important to have a daily practice, to practice every day from the time you get up in the morning, thinking about, how do I want to live my life today? What do I want to do? What kind of person do I want to be? What is my long-term like aspiration? And how do I want to make everything I do, today, this day, contribute towards that, and sort of have a coherent sense of what one wants to be as a person, and try to live every day like according to that. So then at the time you die, naturally you just have that. It's already there, like how you want to be as you die. It's already set, and you can create a lot of good karma that way. And then, so one is just to habituate ourselves to positive actions. And then, what was the other one? I was thinking there's two main things. Oh, yeah, to create, just habitually create positive karma, and then to subdue our mind, train our mind so that we have some control over our mind. So at the time of death, think about the time of death. Think about how we're going to die. We're definitely going to die. We don't know when we're going to die. As we die, it could be like this. What kind of state of mind do I want to have as I die? And practice for that, so that at the time you die, you actually, generate, can generate a positive state of mind. But death is quite scary, no? Because none of us know how we're going to die.
Actually, they give a lot of sedatives and people are unconscious.
Yeah, if you die of like a slow illness in a hospital and you have a lot of pain, and
So you don't know what the state of mind at least.
yeah.
Sometimes it's depend upon the environment, like when we were like dying. If someone died with lot of suffering and all, of course, like everything is destabilized. If someone has like a good environment and positive, then even if they die, no, they die with like full of happiness.
It can help you, the environment that you're in, or the condition of your body, or the kind of people you have around, or
If someone dies with like illness and then all this, I think it is a negative. But some people they just dying like just sudden,
In their
like
sleep
yeah,
also
yeah.
they
In
die.
sleep it's like I think it's the best because
but in sleep, then you're not aware when you're dying. You're unconscious. No.
But sometimes people they don't get time to think about all these things, right? And
Yeah, they just in a car accident and
immediately.
they just die, or they suddenly have a heart attack and then they don't know what's going on, and then they're just gone. That's why death is so scary. You don't know how you're going to die, no? But that's why it's important to prepare for it, no? What? Hold on.
Be in a positive state of mind,
Uh,
virtuous state of mind. Try to, have that state of mind at all times. Make it habitual. Then there's a better chance that, it carries over even to the end.
yeah. And especially in day-to-day life, when things are like, you're not going well, like when you're hungry, you're tired, and suddenly, I don't know, the bus you're riding in breaks down or something or whatever, then, see how you deal with that. If little things upset you in day-to-day life, then when you're, suddenly in a hospital, you're not going to do well.
What about the ventilators and all that? Put people.
Yeah.
So
Man.
that is actually
Yes.
after death almost once. Like,
Ventilator, yeah, it's before you die, before death. I mean, death is when your consciousness separates from your body, leaves your body. It's not even when you stop breathing.
So
So,
are people aware that they are dead?
what?
Are they aware that they are dead?
Are people aware that they are dead now? Sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. I mean, according to Buddhist text, that's one like in the Bardo Todo. There's like these texts to guide people through the Bardo. One thing they tell them again and again is like, now you're dead. It's time to leave this life. Because it said some people, even they separated from their body, but then they're like hovering above and they can see their body below, and they grasp at it. They want to enter into it again, even though they don't have the karma to be able to do that. And so, um, yeah, so it can help. I mean, there's like rituals in Tibetan Buddhism. There's like, yeah, these texts that are read to people as they're dying, telling them that now you're dying, let go of this life, let go of your body, just go on. So by that, it looks like some people don't immediately recognize that they've died, but some people do. But that's another reason it's important to. There's a whole death process, the 8 stages of absorption at the time of death, and thinking about all the different things that happen as you die, and then to be able to recognize those and then use the experience of death as a basis for meditation, and meditate as you're dying, is what a kind of advanced practitioner would do. But even us ordinary people, we can think about, imagine. It's good to, I mean, some of the meditations in the Lam Rim are to imagine, how we might die, and then imagine the kind of state of mind we want to have, like as we're dying. That's very important to meditate on that, to think about. One, it just makes us more aware of that reality, that that's going to happen. Because otherwise, if you never think, you always think like, I'm not going to die, I'm not going to die, and then suddenly it's happening, and you haven't prepared for it all, then it'd be very scary, very difficult.
But sometimes, if we think about more about the process of the death, and it scares us. Whatever
Yeah.
we think, I want to step forward to next achievement. It's like I feel like there is no meaningful, because my death is just I have no the death has no fixed right, so it blocks us to step back to the next achievement. Sometimes, like uh, when we think
Because
about
death has no fixed time, you say?
yeah, sometimes if we think more about the death, like
Yeah.
yes, one day I have to die, this is the human nature. If we think about the dying too much, then it blocks us. Our everyone has their achievement right for the next goal. If I right now,
Like in this life, things you want to achieve.
if
Yeah.
a present life, if you want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
achieve like next 2 years, if I want to achieve this goal, it blocks us. It's feel like, what shall I do if before I step forward this goal, that is just
No, it doesn't have to be like that though. That's going too overboard now. You don't have to spend all day and night thinking about death for like years and years and not do anything else. No, just a little bit every day, for a month or so, or just once in a while. It's not like all the time. But aren't there anything? I mean, there must be other things you've done that you were scared you at first, but then you become comfortable with, right? Is there anything you've done that scared you at first and then became comfortable with? Like, I mean, like, I think an easy example is swimming, When you learn to swim, at first it's very scary to go in the water and go in water that you can't stand up in. But then you become, you learn how to adapt to the situation, and it becomes quite easy and comfortable. Or even like riding a bicycle. At first you sit on the bicycle and you fall over and you're afraid you're going to fall over. But then gradually you get the hang of it, you know how to do it, and it becomes like so easy. So meditation on death is the same. Yeah, at first it is scary, a little scary. But gradually you become comfortable with the whole idea, the whole situation, the idea of what's going to happen. And then, it becomes like not such a big deal. Yes, Sanna.
Cooking and teaching. I see most of the people there are more elderly. Most of the ladies are more elderly. They're 70s. Husbands are into their 80s. They've all reached that stage of mortality when they begin to become aware of mortality. So I see many of them, their husbands now are taking seriously ill. And you can begin to see the drain on the wife, on the spouse. Because many of them are housewives. Usually I'm the only one who works. So you worry. And if you really begin to think, why are these ladies worried? Okay, they may be worried about their spouse, but most of the time, what will become of me after he goes? If you're very honest with yourself, I mean, that is the way it works.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that when I told her is this, she agreed. So it's actually very self-centered again. What will become of me?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a kind of fear, what will I do?
Yeah, and
how will I live?
We think about our own death is one thing. We all think we're immortal. When we begin to fear, especially loved ones, because the actual underlying thing was, what will happen to me?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the big sufferings of samsara is all the people we become close to through life gradually we're separated from them all. Like you talk to people that age too, also they'll often say like, all my friends have died. Like my mother has, I don't know, she has like, I think 7 brothers and 2 sisters. Now she's only all the ones, and she's the second youngest in a big family. Everyone older than her has all died now. She has 1 younger brother left. But so many people like that. Then everyone you become close to, her whole life, they all they die. And then if they don't die before you, when you die, you're separated from them all, and you never meet them again, no, ever. It's quite sad.
Dying, and that scares you. The other point is many people who have a long life. Very often they don't feel very purposeful and purposeful. They don't know what they're doing. They're just counting their days to get.
Yeah.
That's the other aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a grandmother who her husband died and then she lived 10 more years. And she used to say for years before, for like 10 years, for probably the last 8 years, she was saying almost every day, I think, I don't know why God keeps me here. Like, I just want to go and join Leo in heaven. I just want to die. She would say, she didn't want to live at all. Can you imagine, like every day, for like years and years, you actually just don't want to be alive. It'd be quite miserable.
No, that's very
quite difficult.
In long relationships with the spouse.
Yeah.
Very often when one dies, the other degenerates. Within no time they want to join.
Yeah, oftentimes they die. The spouse dies soon after.
They lose that will to live and degenerate.
Yeah. Anyway.
There are also those when my found to find a purpose for life and say that the remaining part of my life I should lead it with a purpose. The very strong one. There may be a few.
Yeah. Yeah, some go back to like college and get another degree or
and,
do some training.
Be bond with their friends and do some work,
marry again.
Voluntary work.
Yeah, some are quite relieved to have their spouse gone. They can do all the things that they couldn't do like before. Like I know one guy, his wife died. She was quite strict with money, I guess, and his wife died, and then the very next day he went out and bought this like really expensive sports car that she would never let him buy. That's kind of a good attitude. Like, okay, now what is this new situation? What opportunity does this present for me to enjoy? Like,
make the most of it.
Yeah.
And there is also that thing that when one spouse is suffering.
Yeah.
Like I know somebody, where the man suffered from Parkinson's. And for 11 long years. So when he was gone, of course, the woman found it, it was up to 60 years in marriage. But at least given an opportunity to live this remaining 7 years to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's dedicate then, I think. We just have a few minutes left. Let's use a prayer in the prayer book on page 101 in the prayer book, page 101. So let's briefly think about whatever merit we've created in this session on how to live happily as a couple, discussing a little bit more about the importance of compassion, how compassion, makes us happy, makes others happy, compels us to live a virtuous life. And then by living a virtuous life, abandoning negative karma, abandoning negative, non-virtuous actions, and how all actions are led by the mind, right? Just as an impure mind leads us into non-virtuous actions, which result in suffering, like the shadow like the wheel of a cart follows the feet of the oxen. And a pure mind leads us into virtuous actions, which lead to happy, pleasant experiences, just like a shadow follows the body. And then the different kinds of karma, and especially different kinds of karmic result. There was a ripening result, the result similar to the cause, the environmental result. And so how it's important in our relationships with others, especially, someone we're very close to, a partner, to mutually encourage each other to live a virtuous life, live a wholesome life, and engage in virtuous actions together, and thereby create causes of happiness from life to life. And especially thinking about, the fact of death and how we're going to die and how we want to create, virtuous karma so that we can continue on our spiritual path in future lives. So think about all the merit we've created in this session and rejoice. All the good things we've talked about, we can rejoice. Think about all the virtuous actions that other sentient beings like ourselves throughout the world engage in. We can rejoice in those. And then think about all the holy deeds of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, especially our own teachers, and rejoice in their actions in the past, the present, and future. So all this merit gathered together, then we can dedicate with these prayers on page 101, which is dedication prayers. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, that has not arisen, arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. And the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who makes extremely clear the path that is the unification of emptiness and compassion, to the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Excuse me. May the glorious Guru's lives be long and stable. May all beings equaling the extent of space have happiness. We can stop there, I think. And then maybe we skip. Yeah, that's a good place to stop. So just bring to mind any other prayers you might have for yourself or others. For those who are sick or have recently died and so forth. Or people experiencing so many different problems in the world. Especially the war in Ukraine, which caused so many problems, not only for the people in Ukraine, but throughout the world. May it quickly come to an end. And global climate warming, climate destruction, and pollution, may it quickly come to an end. And then poverty, hunger, thirst, illness. And then all those who have recently died, may they quickly take a precious human rebirth and rebirth in a pure one. And then all your own prayers, may they be answered in accordance with your wish. And especially may Choe Khor Sum Ling, the center hosting this session, may continue to flourish far into the future and be able to find all the required staff and sponsorship and conditions to be able to continue offering the Buddhist teachings in a vast and quality way to many, many people. Okay, thank you all, and see you next time.